Welcome back to the channel, and today we're going to be looking at the Karl Kustoms oil pan. It is supposed to be a direct copy of the Holley 302-1. I did order the Holley dipstick tube to go with it to make sure my oil level showed correct on the dipstick. But in this video, what we're going to look at is we're going to take a tour of what comes in the box, what you get when you order the oil pan, and then we are going to actually install it on the LS engine, and we will see if there's any kind of obstacles that we run into, fitment issues, quality issues, things like that. So let's go over here to the table. We'll see what's in the box. Okay, as I just told you, we ordered the Karl Kustoms oil pan that's supposed to be the same dimensions as the Holley 302-1, and for my measurements it is exactly the same. Now I did order the Holley 302-15 oil dipstick. This is an actual Holley component that gives you the accurate reading when you put the different oil pan on there. So just opening the box, as you can see, you get an oil pan gasket. We'll be using that. You get the baffle that goes inside of the pan. Goes down inside the pan. You get the pickup tube, the block off plate for the side of the pan here. You get all the hardware that mounts the baffle inside. You also get the oil tube O-ring, the mounting hardware that goes around the pan, as well as the oil filter plug, or not plug, but actually there's the oil filter plug, or oil pan plug I should say, and this is the oil filter adapter that screws into the bottom of the pan right here. The only thing I can say, the only issues I had so far is when they shipped this pan to me, this was packaged in the box, so when it was being shipped, this was rubbing up against this sealing surface. Now, I did buff out the sealing surface. I contacted Karl Kustoms. They knocked some of the money. They give me some money back. They give me a refund for the dents in that, and they said they were aware of that happening before. And I said, well, if you're aware of it, you know, package the oil pickup tube a little better so that it doesn't beat up against the pan. But they made it right. And the only other issue I had is one of the pickup tubes that I received, it had some galling around this, where the pickup tube goes inside the oil pump. And I'll show you. That's actually the one they sent me. They did make it right and replace it. But as you can see, let me get a close-up here. As you can see, the first pickup tube I received, it had some galling, and I was concerned that would not seal on the inside the oil pump. So I contacted them, no problem. They shipped me another one out within just a few days and made that issue go away. So what we're gonna do now is I'm gonna go over here to the engine. We're gonna get you set up, and we are gonna flip this thing over. First thing we're gonna do is drain the oil out of it, because I still haven't drained the oil from when I started the engine last time. So I'll drain the oil, I'm gonna flip it over, and we're gonna take this old pan off and install the new pan and see if we run into any issues. So let me get you set up and we will start installing this pan. Okay guys, I've already got the engine flipped upside down, and it looks like every one of these bolts are all 10mm. So we'll get these broke loose, get the oil pan off, and see what we got underneath. And voila, there we have it. There's all the bolts. I am going to compare these bolts to the ones that came with it. I don't trust China bolts, and if these factory GM bolts are the same as the ones that came with it, I may reuse these. So let's see. Oh, that's not as bad as I thought it would be. So let's see if we can get this oil pan off. Let me let you look in here. Like I said, I bought this engine without hearing it run, and I don't know how many miles is on it, but you can tell it's probably got a ton of miles. There's a lot of sediment in the pan. Doesn't look too good, but we are going to clean this thing up and run it. You can tell by the amount of stuff on the pickup tube. So my main interest is to get this bolt out, get this pickup tube off, and see if we have to modify this windage tray. Because I follow a guy on YouTube. It's a Bad Luck Garage. His name's Robert Bell, and he put one of these on, and he had to notch the pan for this tube. And I'm wondering if I'm going to have to do that, or he had to notch the windage tray, I'm sorry. I'm wondering if I'm going to have to do that as well. So let's get this off and see if we've got to notch anything from here. So let me grab my tools. I'm expecting this to be a 10 millimeter as well. And it is. Yeah. And there we go. Let's see if we can, uh-oh, missed one. And there we go. Now we have the oil pickup tube ready to come out. And another thing I've been reading on a lot of forums is the color of this O-ring. I've read that the black ones are fine, the red ones, all kinds of O-rings, but I want to put back what is on here from the factory. So looks like I've got a green O-ring, so I'm going to run to the parts store and get one of these. But look at this oil pan pickup tube, or oil pump pickup tube. That thing's got a few miles on it. All right, so let me get the other one. I'm gonna clean this up. Not in the video, but I'll get a razor and we'll get all that goo from off the oil pan area. So let me do that. I'm gonna get the other pickup tube and we'll put it on here once we get this cleaned up and get an O-ring, and I'll cut you back on and we'll see if it's gonna fit or not. So stay tuned, guys. Okay, we have got the gasket surface clean. I took some WD-40 and let it soak. Then I took my trusty razor blade and scraped around. And then we took some brake parts cleaner and a microfiber towel, and we cleaned everything up. So we've got this cleaned. Now we've got to prep the oil pan and get it ready. And I got a few tips that I want to show you in this video. This oil pan does need to be put together. It did not come with any instructions. One of the things that I found, if you go to Holley's website, you can download the instructions for the 302-1 and 302-2 oil pan, and it has all of the torque specs for your oil pan bolt, which I know none of us guys torque those, for your oil passage, your oil filter adapter, it's 40 foot-pounds. Then it tells you what these bolts torque to. You do put Loctite on here. I'm not going to read this all to you, but as we go, as I put this together, I will call these out. But I will leave a link to the PDF for this in the description box of this video so that you guys will have this, because like I said, this does not come with it. I did go to the parts store. I wanted to show you guys something. I went to the parts store, a couple of things. This oil pan does come with a green O-ring, but when you put it on the tube, I'm just not impressed, guys. It doesn't fit like I think it should, and I'm not going to put it in the engine. Even though that engine, you saw how crusty it was, that thing is just got a little too much play for me. So I went and I took my green O-ring that I had off the original engine. It's one of those square ones. And when I went to the parts store, I've talked to multiple people about this, and they all say that this is the new replacement O-ring. I don't know, maybe you guys know. Leave me some comments, let me know. But this is the Felpro. replaces part number 12584922, and it's I think that's the part number right there, but I will put the link to the part number of this in the description box as well. And then what I was going to show you guys is when I went to the parts store, this document from Holley will tell you what oil filters that you can use. AC Delco PF48, PF48E, Mobile M1-113, or a Wix 57060, so on and so forth. I use Wix filters, and as you can see, this is not a 57060. The difference is, I'm going to show you, let's flip this oil pan up, is you probably already know, but the length. So if you look at a PF48 and a PF48E AC Delco, you can see if I sit these down, that 57060 Wix is about the same height as this. You can tell this is about an inch, inch and a half taller. And what you're going to get is this filter will work fine. And you can see that it goes up underneath the pan nicely. I like a little bit of extra filtration, so I went with the longer oil pan or oil filter. And you're going to say, but that hangs out below the pan. Well, if you look, let me set this down somewhere clean. If you look, we'll take a top view. If you look at the pan like if I was underneath the truck and I have this tightened up, you can see that it does not stick out past the bottom of the front of the pan. Now, as you get underneath, this pan tapers back, and it is a little lower on the back side. But what you're going to be worried about is something hitting it from the front side. Or if that concerns you, go with the 57060 or this PF48E. It gets it up snug out of the way. I just thought I'd share that with you guys because I know some guys like to run the longer oil filters, and that's what I like to do, is run the longer oil filters. And I may go back and put the shorter one on it later. Who knows? That'll probably get in my head now that I've seen it stick out, and I'll have to change it. So what I'm going to do, I am going to brake clean this entire inside of this oil pan. Even though it's been in my shop in a box, the dust and grime in here is pretty bad. So I'm going to go ahead and clean this up. And as I put this together, we'll call out the torque specs. We'll put the oil pan on. I'll call out the torque specs here. So you've got 2 different torque specs for these bolts and then the bolts in the back. So let me get you set up, and we'll start putting all this together. Then we'll install the oil pan, and that'll end out the video. One other thing I want to tell you before I get you set up is I read on here, if you look, the 302-1 is designed to use a GM full-length windage tray. So I mentioned earlier on Bad Luck Garage, he put an oil pan on his and had to cut the windage tray. We are not going to have to do that. I've already stuck the oil pump pickup tube in there, and you saw where it fit perfect. So I'm going to start getting this together. We'll get you set up, get this together, get it on the engine, and we will call this video done. So stick around, guys. Okay, guys, the first thing I did, we just talked about, I cleaned everything with brake cleaner, and I wiped everything down. The first thing we're going to put in is this baffle, and I've got my torque wrenches here. I've got both a 3/8 torque wrench that goes down to 10 foot-pounds, and then I've got my inch-pound wrench that goes up to 200 inch-pounds. Now, these bolts right here that hold this windage tray on, they torque to 10 foot-pounds. And since my 3/8 drive only goes to 10, I don't like to use it on the lowest setting, so rather I converted. If you want to convert inch-pounds to foot-pounds, you can just take your foot-pounds, which is 10, and multiply by 12, and that'll tell you how many inch-pounds, and that's what I did. So I got 120 inch-pounds. Or if you convert inch-pounds to, inch-pounds down to foot-pounds, you can divide by 12, go the other way. But what I did, I'm going to use 120 inch-pounds. So let's get this windage tray installed. You do want to use blue Loctite according to the Holley instructions. So I'm going to put blue Loctite on these bolts. They are 3/8 head by 1/4 20. So let's get these installed. Okay, We'll now install the oil passage cover, which is just above the oil filter. Looks like this. And these are going to tighten to 106 inch-pounds. Okay guys, we're about ready. I'm going to screw the drain plug in. It says tighten this to 18 foot-pounds. I'm going to tighten it hand tight. This is the oil filter adapter. It does not say to put Loctite on it, but it does say to tighten it to 40 foot-pounds. And I'm going to wait till I get this on, to get the oil pan installed where I can get some leverage on it, and we'll tighten that to 40 foot-pounds. So let's go over here, get the oil pan installed. We'll get our gasket put on, our pickup tube assembly with the oil O-ring goes into the oil pump, and we will finish this out. Okay guys, the next step is going to be put the oil pump pickup tube assembly in, and that's going to have to do with putting the O-ring on here. I'm going to use, you can use assembly lube, you can use oil, whatever you'd like. I'm going to use some white lithium grease, and we're going to put this thing on here. Lube it up really good. And the key thing about putting this pickup tube assembly in with this O-ring is not to try to start putting the pickup tube in and then letting your screws force this down in there. The trick is you want this to go in there smoothly without having to force it in. And I'm going to show you guys the trick I was going to tell you. So let's get this in here. Just kind of slowly work it in there. Make sure that we're not pinching it. You should feel it slide right down in there, and it should go really smoothly. Just like that. Just like that, and it's flush. So now, as you can see, this bolt is easy to get to. And we're going to tighten these to 106 inch-pounds. 106 inch-pounds. And then your bolts, or your nuts actually, that go here and here are going to tighten to 18 foot-pounds. But let's go back here. I want to show you a little trick of the trade. So let me get you where you can see. Now, the problem you got is I can't get my hands down in that hole. So what I do is I get me a piece of typing paper, notebook paper, whatever, wrap it around your Allen head, push it down onto your bolt, and now you've got a holding Allen. When you pull this out, the paper may come out on the screw, or typically most of the time it stays down with the bolt. So let's get this down in there. The only problem with this is I can't get anything in there to torque it with. There we go. So I'm gonna have to be creative and get a torque wrench on this thing somehow. But for now, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna feel what I think 106 inch-pounds feels like. That feels good to me. Now let's not drop the paper down in the engine, and it stayed down in there. So let me get my tweezers. If you guys don't keep tweezers in your shop for splinters, you need to get you a pair. There's your piece of paper. Discard the paper. Now we can tighten our other 106 inch-pounds right here, and I do have a torque wrench we can put on this one. Oops. So we'll tighten this one to, or torque this one to 106 inch-pounds. And that's it. I wish that was a little bit longer and I could get that down in there, but I just can't get down in there. So we'll just have to leave it like it is. Now, You got to tighten these back up to 18 foot-pounds, and I'll save you. Well, you can't see me. Got to put these on and tighten these up to 18 foot-pounds. I'll save you the pain of watching that. The only other thing is I want to show you, I'll take you off the tripod, the pickup tube assembly. I'm going to go ahead and put it in. It is right at the bottom of this, so this thing needs to be pushed over as far as you can get it so that the dipstick tube will, or the dipstick will actually clear this tube. So let me get these tightened. I'll put the pickup tube assembly in, and then I'll show you the shot of this, and we'll go ahead and finish out, put the oil pan on and tighten it up. Okay guys, we are about finished with the video. Just want to show you a few things. I told you I'd show you the dipstick tube. One key point here is you will need a 1/4 inch drive, 5 millimeter, to get down in there, to torque that bolt in there. I got these nuts put back on. They're 18 foot-pounds. When you put this pickup tube assembly on, make sure you push this over as far as you can go that way, because if you'll see, if you can see, the dipstick tube is really close to the pickup tube. This is the original Holley dipstick tube. I went ahead and put it on. The other factory one bolts on back here, but this is the original Holley dipstick tube, and it is the HLY-302-15, and that's the Summit part number, made in China. I will put the link to these parts again, always in the description. When we put this oil pan on, these bolts from here all the way around to the back cover, all of these bolts are going to be 18 foot-pounds. 18 foot-pounds. Right here, 106 inch-pounds. These, you can break these very easily from what I understand. I've never done it before, but these are 18 foot-pounds, 106 inch-pounds in the rear cover. And I am going to put a picture showing the torque sequence. So you start in the middle, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and it goes in a sequence. And I'll put that picture up right now and leave it up so that you can pause the video. You can take a picture of it, and it'll show you the exact torque sequence I'm going to use. I'm not going to spend a lot of time filming me torquing all this down. Just remember 18 foot-pounds, 106 inch-pounds, and then don't forget to torque the oil filter to 40 foot-pounds. So I'm going to set up, I'm going to put my silicone in the 4 corners. Don't forget that, very important. Put it in the 4 corners where the gasket, the rear cover meets the block, here, and where the front timing cover meets the block, here and here. Put your 4 beads of silicone, put your gasket on, put your oil pan on, and we'll do the torque sequence. Okay, I'm going to set you up. We're going to get that done. We're going to end out the video. Okay guys, that is it. 18 foot-pounds, 106 inch-pounds. Don't forget to tighten your oil filter adapter fitting in here to 40 foot-pounds. I'll tell you something, I've never installed an LS oil pan before, but I learned something new every day. I was trying to thread this bolt in and it wasn't going anywhere. It's because there is not a bolt down in that hole. So if you do the same, no, there's not a bolt in there. I actually checked it on my old stock pan. If you'll look, there's not a bolt that goes through there. So I learned something new every day. Next video, we're going to go ahead and install our engine mounts onto the engine. We're going to go ahead and install the mounts to the frame and go ahead and start setting this engine in here, fitting it, and we're going to see if we have to notch this for the oil pan clearance. That was the whole idea behind this oil pan, was to make sure we got enough clearance for the cross member. So with that being said, guys, I'm going to end out the video right here. Thank you guys for coming back. Thank you guys that are first time stopping in for stopping in. Like, comment, subscribe if you like what you see. Want to see more of this kind of content at DT Performance. And I'll catch you guys in the next episode.